Do you love the warrior class fantasy of big damage and short burst windows? Well, Colossus Warrior might just be for you. We're currently in World of Warcraft Week 2 of the War Within beta. And typically in this beta cycle, or when we're in betas, I try to actually look at the damage. I sat down and did a lot of number testing to make sure the abilities are doing appropriate damage. And some things definitely not doing appropriate damage, but that's really fun. Normally in alphas is when I try to look at flow of the playstyle and maybe give up suggestions like, animations. That didn't really happen. Or 2 Anderson Shield. Didn't happen. Doesn't matter. Because with this fancy new ability, Arms Warriors are doing some pretty gnarly crits. Yeah, that was a 6.2 million crit with Demolish. That's extreme. My Warrior's health pool is only 4.9 mil right now. Granted, it's on a target dummy in Desire lore, and it's technically a boss, but I've tried to do the damage scaling between a regular boss target dummy and then also the regular mob, and still the damage is about the same, just you have to get lucky with the right amount of procs, crits, etc. But with Colossus Warrior, we have this fancy new ability, Demolish, which also got a cool new icon. 45-second cooldown, which also has cooldown reduction to it, because every time you hit with Mortal Strike or Execute, it reduces the cooldown. Unleash a series of precise, powerful strikes against your target, dealing 700,000 damage to it and 470,000 damage to enemies within 8 yards of it. So it's not only a single target ability, it also does cleave damage, so it's very important because there's modifiers in this. Deals reduced damage beyond 8 targets while channeling Demolish, because it is a channel, unfortunately, but it is true. You take 10% less damage, you are immune to stuns, knockbacks, and forced movement effects, so anything like Thunderstorm. You can still block, parry, and dodge, and use certain defensive abilities while channeling Demolish. So our initial concern with this ability over here was that you wouldn't be able to move. It's like warriors want to be able to stay agile. They kind of fixed that. So actually, in all the dungeon testing that I've done, it has not felt punishing at all using it, which is a good thing. More importantly, with Demolish, with the damage modifiers you can do to it, like using your CS and get your 30% damage increase, and unfortunately, I did test it out with Test of Might. Currently, with how much haste we have at this max level with, I believe it's what, 611 eye level? 611. Didn't have enough haste to get as much of a strength buff as I would like for Test of Might. Down the road, you're going to want to use it during your Test of Might window instead of during CS window. But with specifically Thunderous Roar not doing that much damage, I said, you know what? Let's try it out. Let's go with Champion's Might. Because who the hell rocks Champion's Might anymore? So with that modifier and Avatar using Recklessness and a pot, boom, we got a 6.2 million crit with Demolish. And then also the 2 strikes ahead of it hit for about 500,000 normal damage. And when they do crit, it hits for about 1.3. So your total damage with a Demolish, like the max crit damage that you could have for it, was what, 2.6? You're looking at 8.8 million damage for a single Demolish cast. That's probably going to get tuned. Let's be honest, that's a little high. But it does feel really nice going through my details and looking at the damage and seeing that my highest damage performance is Mortal Strike again. Instead of it being like, oh, hey, here's like, your bleeds are doing more damage and yada yada. How Colossus currently is feels really great. And there's modifiers into here that makes it so Demolish is always ready to use. In this hero talent tree, it revolves around using Demolish and also modifying Demolish. So, with Colossal Might increase the damage dealt of your next Demolish by 10%, stacking to 10 times. TLDR, 100% damage increase. Folks' primary concern initially was that if you even could get your 10 stacks when Demolish was always ready, right? So it would be painful if you had to wait for your stacks and then use your Demolish. So you'd be sitting on the cooldown. Not the case, because if you read the second part of it, Mortal Strikes and Executes grant a stack of Colossal Might, which you're going to be using Mortal Strike very frequently, especially with the cooldown reset of Overpower. And Cleave also grants you a stack of Colossal Might, as long as it hits 3 targets. And that's important because we get down there, but that was one of the latest things they did for this week. Cleave and Whirlwind, we'll get into it, don't worry. More importantly, is right over here. Dominance of the Colossus. Colossal Might now stacks up to 10 times. That's because we already know that. It's already modified in the tooltip. If you would gain a Colossal Might stack after max stacks, the cooldown of Demolish is reduced by 2 seconds. So how it works or functioning right now, while doing target dummy testing and in dungeons, you would have your 10 stacks ready, and then you would probably have about 15 to 20 seconds before Demolish is ready to use. However, because you're overcapping, you end up getting more than 10 stacks from using your regular abilities like Mortal Strike, or an Execute, or a Cleave. Every one of those Colossal Might refreshes actually ends up reducing the cooldown of Demolish. So you're getting it faster. It's like, oh, you're already at 10 stacks? Sweet. Let's speed this up so that way you can actually use your ability. The other benefit is that enemies affected by your Demolish take up to 10% increased damage from you and 5% less damage to you, based on the number of stacks Colossal Might consumed to Demolish, which are pretty much always going to have 10 stacks. That has not been a concern ever, and I think the quickest I got my Demolish back up and ready was probably about 20 to 25 seconds. Now that's all fine on paper. Seems great. However, there is one scenario that's a little awkward. Typically in a raid encounter, you would pop Bloodlust relatively soon into the encounter. Keyword typically. Arms warriors that are Colossus are going to need a good 10 to 15 second warm-up before you just unleash your load. Luckily enough, with Bloodlust and how Mortal Strike works, you will have a reduced cooldown on Mortal Strike, you're attacking faster, you get your overpowers faster, you should be able to ramp up those stacks for Colossal Might relatively quick, and in the later half of Bloodlust window, you will still be able to use your entire sequence for maximum damage. Let's go into a target dummy real quick and see how quickly we can get our 10 stacks, and then also our cooldown for Demolish, how quickly we can get that back as well. So we're going to go in, start our timer, and start spamming our Mortal Strikes as quickly as we possibly can. Anytime Mortal Strike is up, you need to make sure you're hitting that button. You don't want to spend any rage on anything else. You want to make sure you're ramping up towards your Colossal Mights. And we're already at 6 stacks and 14 seconds in. So maybe that 10 to 15 second might not be as grand. Again, with Bloodlust and enough procs, you can get lucky. There we go. We're at 10 stacks at 23 seconds in. Now, let's restart this timer and see how quickly we can get Demolish back from using just our regular rotation. I messed up a little bit there in my timers. That's why there's a jump cut here. Sorry. I'm going to do it again because I didn't actually start it after I spent Demolish. So there wasn't an accurate demonstration of how it could be reset in this timer. So instead of worrying about our rotation going into this, we're just straight up going to use it after our 10 stacks and then restart our timer as soon as Demolish is spent, because the data I had there was not going to be accurate at all. It was pretty awkward, to be honest with you. So we're going back up to 10 stacks. 3, 2, and 1. There we go. So we're going to go into our sequence, start our timer, and go. There's Demolish. So now we're going to go back into sequence, doing our normal rotation, getting our stacks up. The faster we can get our stacks up means the faster we can get our CDR on using Demolish, period. So you still want to prioritize Mortal Strike and Execute as if you never did that before playing a warrior, but that is a high priority. Obviously, you are using Slam as a filler nowadays when Overpowered's on cooldown, just to spend some rage. Luckily enough, Slam doesn't hit like a wet noodle anymore, so that is really good. We have CS back up. We're just smashing. And bam. It was about 30 seconds. So you're actually shaving off 15 seconds from Demolish every time you use it into a sequence. And that could fluctuate anywhere from probably about 26 seconds to as unlucky as maybe 35. But even though it does say it's a 45-second cooldown, you're almost never dealing with a 45-second cooldown for Demolish, which is really nice. Now, if we recall back towards how Colossal Might stacks work, one of the key notes there was using Cleave. If Cleave hits at least 3 targets, you get another stack of Colossal Might. And also Demolish does do splash or AoE damage. So it would make sense that Cleave would be modified for that. It doesn't say Whirlwind. In this current beta cycle, or beta patch that we have from week 2, they made it so that Cleave now replaces Whirlwind. Now, the reason for this was because there was some button bloat and a little bit of choice paralysis for Arms Warriors on what to use in an AoE scenario. We had Whirlwind, Cleave, Bladestorm, Thunderclap for putting rend on everything. It was just a little bit too much. Their solution for this was just replace Whirlwind entirely when you're talented for Cleave, which I feel like is a really good choice to have instead of having Cleave and Whirlwind and have to work with that. So when you do talent for Cleave, anything that does modify for that gets switched over from Whirlwind. That's how it works. Most of the abilities, if you search through your talent tree right now, if you type in Whirlwind, it says Whirlwind and Cleave. But when you're Demolish or Colossus Warriors, Cleave is going to be your go-to because you have more Colossal Might stacks from doing it. You don't get that from using Whirlwind. It seems like Slayer is going to be more Whirlwind-centric, and Colossus is going to be more using Cleave, which I'm entirely down for. They also increased the cooldown of Cleave by a little bit. Again, still affected by your haste, so it has a shorter cooldown. But using Cleave feels way better in AoE scenarios than using Whirlwind does. And I'll probably do some beta testing tonight on stream, which means by the time you're seeing this video, that was, well, yesterday. I don't know, pop in the stream if you want and ask me about warrior things. More than happy to. This change actually is going to feel really good, or at least I'm expecting it to feel good. The only thing about using Colossus is currently doesn't really feel like I'm going to be going for Bladestorm, which is fine. That Slayer is going to be more towards like spin to win and Beyblading. Cool with that. And then Colossus is going to be more using your cleave, mortal strikes, etc. Now some of you might be wondering, is all the damage just going to come from Demolish? No, actually it's not. Here's a brief breakdown of like a kind of silly rotation, just trying to get those crits. Mortal Strike and Execute actually did extreme amounts of damage, including getting a 4 million Mortal Strike crit. Again, that's probably going to be tuned, but if this is what we can estimate for how Colossus Arms Warrior damage breakdown is going to be, I'm pretty much okay with it. I would like to see deep wounds just a little bit higher, maybe to 5 to 6%, rend be a little bit higher, and also there's some funky things about talent trees and how the positioning goes, or pathing. That's going to be for a whole separate video because I have a lot more to talk about on that than what I can fit into this video as well. But Arms Warrior damage breakdown and how the abilities are feeling, the rotation, etc. does feel nice. Arms is supposed to be like more of a tactical, like trying to find your positioning and also trying to find out what sequence of damage and rotation you want to do for maximum output. Where Fury is more smash, 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 smash. A lot of people really like that fantasy for Warrior. Great, that's neat. I'm more of an Arms Warrior main. I like to have a little bit more tactical play in doing such, and currently this is fulfilling that need for me as an Arms Warrior player. There you have it. That is a brief breakdown on how Colossus Warrior is currently playing for World of Warcraft War Within beta. Personally, I'm really a fan of this. I think integrating that one ability, Demolish, actually does change up your gameplay just enough to make it entertaining and also really rewarding. And it's way more entertaining than what we have currently in retail, which is just Mortal Strikes and Executes and Overpowers. Woo. Adding just Demolish and how that functions changes up the gameplay and makes it not just entertaining, but really rewarding when you get a proper sequence in. Thank you all so much for watching the video. I greatly appreciate it and for supporting this channel. In fact, actually, as of you watching this video, we hit YouTube partner. So neat. Thank you all so much for your support. I really do appreciate it. And if you would like to see more content or just more of my face for whatever reason, you can always check me out on Twitch. I'm probably live right now as you're watching this video, unless you're watching early in the day. I'm live at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every day but Monday. So you're more than welcome to pop on in, have some good laughs. Fair warning, it is a degenerate stream. It's like a late night TV show. There's weird humor and stuff. So full disclosure, viewer discretion is advised, that kind of stuff. Also Instagram, TikTok, and the Discord servers down there. All those links and stuff are down below, or just search Touchpadwarrior. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers, and have a legendary day.